Hopefully you can see that. In the center there is a small green plum. If you remember earlier on this spring I did some footage of a tree that I was thinking was a plum tree. It came up from the roots when an apricot tree died, so I think it was the plum tree that the apricot was grafted onto. And for 2 years bloomed with lots of blossoms, but never set any fruit. So this year I went and got a branch of plum blossoms from a neighbor's tree and kept it in water close to the tree, and it set quite a bit of fruit. And then the fruit started falling off. I'm down now to 2 or 3 plums that are, I don't know, about quarter size, I guess. No idea how big they're going to get because I've never seen them on the tree before. But I stopped into Canada Green, a greenhouse up in St. George, New Brunswick, to buy a plum tree to cross-pollinate this with. And I mentioned to the lady that runs the greenhouse that I was losing a lot of the fruit off of the tree after it's set, and she wanted to know immediately if it was in a wet area. Well, it is. It's at the base of a field that sort of slopes down to this area, and after rain this area stays wet for a long time because it keeps draining down out of the field. So she says they like dry feet. So when this thing is dormant next spring, I have to move it to a dry area. But anyway, we've proved that it's a plum tree, and I'm hopefully going to get 2 or 3 plums to taste to see what they're like. The 2 varieties of peas, the blue-podded peas and the tall telephone peas, are still doing very well. The vines are very healthy and green right from the base to the top, and lots of blossoms and pods on there. The pods haven't filled out yet. And they're within now, I would say, I don't know, the tallest one's within 6 inches of the top of the trellis. 8-foot trellis, but the first 10 inches of it are below the area of the raised bed. They're nailed onto the 10-inch high raised bed. So actually the top, when they reach the top, they'll be at 7 foot 2 inches, I guess. Where 2 of the vines are growing close together, one of each variety, it gives you a chance to see the difference in what the pods look like anyway. The blue-podded peas are definitely blue, although I guess I would call them purple. They're very, very dark color. And the tall telephone next to it is another heirloom variety, but it's just a typical green pea. Nice big pod. I can see a number of small peas inside of them, but I guess the blue-podded one has started to fill out. It's getting a little thicker. The blue-podded are for drying, for use for soups and whatever. I'm going to try some fresh just to see what they taste like, but the literature that I've read on them says that they're really not a garden pea to eat fresh. They're for drying for winter soups. Everybody's probably thinks it funny that I'm so fascinated and I'm growing beets, but I have had such poor luck over the years with beet crops that I'm thrilled that I have 3 different varieties that are doing very well. This particular 2 squares are called Guard's Mark beets. They're the ones that if you slice across them and look at them, they look like a bullseye inside, the red and white circles in the middle of the flesh. Anyway, there's some there that are getting already up to, I don't know, an inch or 2 in size. So I'm going to have some beets. I love beets, for pickled beets and fresh both. So another month or so, I guess I'll be able to harvest a few. I've had several of the heads of these 2 heirloom varieties of lettuce. Very nice. The light green is very delicate and sweet, and the red one is a little more tart, but when you mix the 2 of them together in a salad, they make a very good salad. Another square over in another bed, I've harvested most of them, and these are getting to a size where they're going to be used soon too. And they haven't started to bolt, but we're into some hotter weather now. Scared that all of a sudden I'll come out and find that they've bolted and gone to seed before I get a chance to use them. The bed of brassicas are continuing to do very well. They've had 1 application of BTK, the organic bacillus that when consumed by the cabbage moth larvae, the caterpillar will kill them. I haven't had too much damage anyway, but I've had some, and I'm not sure if that was slugs or cabbage moths. But anyway, I've started using BTK for the first time. The broccoli is starting to put on some small heads. You can see down in the center there. That stuff usually grows quite quickly once it gets started. I think I have altogether in the garden 5 plants of broccoli. It would be more than I'll be able to eat, but I'm looking forward to freezing some for winter use. Next to it are Savoy cabbage. Haven't really started to head up yet, but I can see down in the center where it looks like they are about to start doing that. And then there's a row over here of Brussels sprouts, which are very clean. There's no bug damage on those at all. Evidently, whatever's been eating the other ones didn't care for Brussels sprouts. And over on this end is Kale, a variety called Toscano, and it does look very much like the kind that you see in Italy. It also had the word palm in brackets afterwards, and I can see what they mean. It sort of does look like a certain kind of palm tree or whatever, the way it's producing. But I haven't harvested any of that yet, but I'm about to. There are a lot of outside leaves. I think I have 5 or 6 plants throughout the garden of that, so I should be able to have some of that for a meal soon too. The Florence Fennel is continuing to do quite well. Another square of it, another bed. I lost one. I guess I showed you last week with, I think it was cutworms, cut it off from the roots. With this particular square's got 5 in it, and they're growing nice size bulbs. I want them to get, oh, I don't know, maybe twice that size before I cut them. One of the people that follows my videos, and I said I didn't know quite what to do with them other than I knew you could braise them or have them in salads. She provided me with a recipe for fennel soup. It sounds very good, so I'll be trying that in another few weeks. This large bulb garlic called Fish River number 3 is continuing to grow, but I can see where the foliage is starting to yellow a bit in places, so it may be reaching close to the end of its life cycle. I guess when the foliage starts to die back, that means it's time to lift it and dry the bulb, so I'm kind of excited to see what it looks like underground. It's had such wonderful tops on it. I'm hoping that I have large heads of garlic under there too. I have tomato plants everywhere, and I'm satisfied with all of them, but the nicest are by far the ones that I planted in large containers full of pure compost out of my own compost pile. They're the healthiest and the thickest stemmed, and now they're getting large branches of blossoms on them with small tomatoes starting. This particular one is called Buckbee's New. It's a heirloom variety. They're supposed to be early, 50 days from transplanting, but 50 days from transplanting never seems to quite work in our climate here, but sometime in August I have hope of some ripe tomatoes, I hope. I'll hold back some of the foliage here to show off some of my early ground cherry husks that have started to form. Even on these relatively small plants that are outside in the garden. Matter of fact, all these small plants that are outside in the garden have 1 or 2 ground cherries that have formed already. I think they're getting better pollinated than the ones in the greenhouse, but I do have a few on the plants in the greenhouse. The plants in the greenhouse are 4 or 5 times larger than these. The plants grew beautifully, but there's no great increase in the crop in there. Well, this week I've had lots of blossoms on the zucchinis and several small zucchini that are starting to develop. Another day or 2 I'll be ready to pick some of them. They're still a bit small to pick, but I like them small. And I've had a few blossoms in some of the winter squash. There's one down in there that isn't ready to open quite yet, but it may open later on today. It's a fairly good-sized blossom. And also, I think they snuck in a few zucchini seed in the Fun with Winter Squash package, because this one here came out of that Fun with Winter Squash, and to me that looks very much like a zucchini. It might be some other kind of squash, I don't know, but it's looking very zucchini-like to me. I'll just finish off with a look at digitalis foxgloves going wild here. This is an area at the edge of my garden where I've in the past just thrown things that didn't go into the compost heap, I guess, and it's been building up with foxglove blossoms for a number of years now. There's quite a few of them in amongst the blackberries and raspberries this year.